And welcome back to Folk Music Notebook. It's time once again for another chapter of Folk on the Water. It's been a few days since we've talked to Dave, and we've got him through the internet. And also, we are graced with the presence of first mate Stacey. Dave and
Oh,
Stacey, how you two doing?
we're great,
Yeah,
Ron.
we couldn't be better.
uh, wow. Well, it's almost a week since we spoke to you last. I think it was like midweek we talked to you last week, and you were still in Milwaukee. But I understand you've done some traveling. You hit Chicago. You're out of Chicago. But let's try to catch up. Now, what happened after you left Milwaukee? You were heading to Chicago. How did it go?
Well, it went great. We got up really, really, really early in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, to go to Chicago because the wind window. I guess we've been talking about the winds a lot
Yeah.
because we're on Lake Michigan, which was referred to this evening by other loopers at the Docktails meeting we attended as the Great Washing Machine. Uh, but we got up really early, got underway at 10 minutes to 4 in the morning,
Wow.
and then cruised until, well, it was a 10-hour cruise. So it was after 2 by the time we pulled into Chicago. And then we spent 2 days there, just being absolutely mesmerized by the tall buildings and eating some great food.
And can I add that it's not frightening to boat in pitch black darkness?
Oh, I don't know how you do it. I would be petrified. I mean, there's obviously you're not too far from land, so I guess you see lights and stuff. But it's got to be a different challenge when you're going that early in the morning.
Absolutely. We could see Milwaukee behind us, and I guess it's like an airplane. We have a device that shows us our track, and hypothetically, if we stay on it, we won't hit anything, but
You can't really see if there's some obstacle in the water, a log or
Yeah.
something that could really change your day for the worse.
Oh. Yeah.
So yeah, well, there's a bit of taking our chances. We did run the radar, and we kept it on for a good part of the day because once daylight came, we were in the fog.
Yeah.
So we went from darkness to fogness.
I know. That was so funny.
That's got to be a little scary there. But you made it to Chicago. Now let's talk about it. Does the Windy City live up to its name? First of all.
Yes,
Yeah.
by all means, yes.
Uh,
It blew like crazy. Well, it was fine the day we got there because it was a west wind, and it wasn't terribly powerful. So it was coming from the land, so there wasn't a great big chop or anything like that. But the next day it swung to the southeast, so it was coming across the lake and directly into the marina that we were moored at, and just rocked the living hell out of us the next night. Didn't sleep at all.
oh gosh.
It was rough.
Yeah. Well, when you finally got to Chicago, I saw some photos on your Facebook page. I mean, it looked gorgeous. I mean, those rivers, I guess they're called rivers that go through the town itself. That's a certain change of scenery from what you've been doing the last couple of weeks when you're basically in the wilderness.
It absolutely was a crazy change, to have these huge skyscrapers, and we went by Trump Tower. I was so excited. It was just astonishing, really. And, all the concrete and glass. And the thing that really surprised me, this is a major city. I've been to many major cities, New York, Boston. They're usually not as clean as Chicago was.
Really?
I was just astonished. There wasn't a stitch of garbage on the ground,
No graffiti.
no graffiti to speak of.
Huh.
It was just a very well kept city.
Yeah. Well, it looked like it from the photos. I was very impressed. I have not been to Chicago. It's on my bucket list, but I was just amazed that the boats are going like right through the middle of the city, and it's like just imagining a river going right through middle of New York City and Manhattan.
Right.
I just can't imagine boats getting that close to all these buildings and such. I mean, here in New York we have the Hudson River, the Harlem River, but there's some space between the land and the buildings. That seems almost a security issue.
Yeah. Oh, it was absolutely surreal. Absolutely surreal. And, there were tour boats and big
Kayaks.
kayaks.
Oh.
We're dodging all sorts of watercraft as we were driving through the city of Chicago. It was incredible. You say Chicago's on your bucket list? It's still on my bucket list. We were there 2 days. There was so much I wanted to do, and we just couldn't do it because we had to keep going.
Yeah. Well,
And you point out how we had been in nature so much before then. Going into that city really struck me how organic it seemed, and that like we were on like on the aorta of Chicago and just pulsing through this incredible living entity with people crossing bridges and elevators going up and down and cranes moving. And it was just incredible, really, to be right in the heart of this.
There was one point we were going under a bridge in the heart of Chicago, and I looked up at this bridge, and it was a 2-level bridge, and over us was a whole bunch of traffic going back and forth with pedestrians on either side, and above that was the L. It was a train going over the top of the bridge, and I just said, "Look at this! Just look at this! Think about what's happening here: boats, cars, people, and trains in one big tall stack."
Oh, that's amazing. It's got to be. It's so different from everything else you've seen. I mean, even you were at Milwaukee, which is also a major city, but I'm sure it was nothing like what you saw through Chicago.
And Milwaukee's a great city. It has tall buildings. It has all the big city stuff, and it's well kept, much like Chicago. But Chicago it's Manhattan huge,
Right.
Milwaukee doesn't give you that sense of awe that you get in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles,
Well, part of your journey has also been kind of a foodie journey as well, because I've watched some of these photos and such that you've taken. So you're in Chicago. Did you try that excuse that they have for a pizza? I'm sorry, I'm a New Yorker. I have a little prejudice there. But,
we share your prejudice. I mean, there's nothing better than New York style pizza. And I've had Chicago style pizzas before, and I really like it. I don't think it's pizza. I think it's something else. Some people say tomato pie. I don't buy that because it has all the pizza stuff in it. It's something else. It needs a different name because it's really good, but it just isn't pizza. But what do you think, Stace?
Like lasagna on toast?
I like that. Okay, that describes it. How about the Chicago hot dog? Did you have a chance to try that?
We did, but not in Chicago, believe it or not. When we were coming through Wisconsin, we did stop at a place that did Chicago-style dogs.
We previewed Chicago in Wisconsin.
It was a little exactly.
I enjoyed it. I was kind of like a fresh, like salad-like hot dog.
A Chicago-style hot dog is a salad. It's like their pizza is lasagna on toast.
Oh, those crazy Chicagoans! I don't know. Well, speaking of crazy, I know now that you're leaving Chicago, you're facing some issues getting through. I mean, there's some locks that have quite a bit of traffic and other issues going on.
Yeah, well, the canal that we're on now, I guess we can call it a canal. It's a river. It's a canal. It's it's a dessert topping. It's a floor polish.
Right.
It's a major hub of transportation.
Yeah, they bring barges through here carrying everything from coal to propane to dirt, gravel, you name it. If they can stack it on a barge, it's going through here.
Didn't you say it was like the equivalent of 1,000 18-wheelers or something?
Oh,
these barges.
One large barge tow is the equivalent of 1,050 18-wheelers.
Oh my gosh.
That's how much material it's moving. And this whole corridor right here is going to be shut down next year for maintenance. And they're prepping for that maintenance now, which with short-term closures. And there's a short-term closure coming up starting on the 20th to October 5th. So commercial traffic, which does get precedence going through the locks over us pleasure craft. They call us PCs. It's stacking up. They're trying to cram through as much of it as they can in advance of this short-term closure, and so we're right now we're waiting in line to go through a lock. We have been for over 24 hours. We're sitting in a marina with no place to go, literally, and we're with I think I mentioned earlier, with a group of 6 or 8 boats, just waiting for this lock. And we know that there's a place in Joliet where we were 2 days ago, where there's another 17 boats. We're all waiting for this lock. And we have an appointed person in the group who communicates with the lock keeper. And he's just so we don't, ruin. Well, we could take all of his time if every boat contacted the lock individually, and they don't want that, and we don't want that because it'll just delay our ultimate passage. So we have one guy who's calling them. He's going to call them at 6 o'clock in the morning and relay to us when we can go.
Wow. Now that sounds like it could. I guess it's sort of, I don't know about the word honor system, but I mean, I can imagine some boaters would get a little testy having to wait like that. And, but I guess there's a certain protocol and a certain etiquette that everybody's following. You haven't seen any issues, have you?
No. And we all knew what we were getting into when we started this journey. It's just the way it works. Commercial traffic takes precedence. We knew that these closures were coming up even before we left. So there are no surprises here for any of us. It would be nice if they were publishing when they were doing what they call upstream tows and downstream tows, because we're going downstream and we have the best chance of getting through when the tows are going upstream, which starts tomorrow morning if their estimates are correct. Hence our sitting still right now. So we're waiting for upstream tows. And when they do that, they can't lock an entire barge through at once, so they take it through in pieces. So the tug has to go back through to collect the rest of the barge tow. And when they take the tug back down through to collect more barges, we get to go down.
Oh, wow. That sounds like it could take a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we're sitting there, I mean, is there anything that you could do? I mean, do you leave the boat or are you just kind of sitting there waiting?
We're literally in the middle of nowhere. So
we did leave the boat and everyone started drinking. 6 boats worth of couples who have been at sea for many, many months without seeing anyone but each other. It's very chatty. There's a lot of gin and tonics. The people with the nicest boats buy appetizers to share.
Right.
Sounds like a great
and
community.
We're very appreciative.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a great community. I mean, I guess that helps you all, you're all in this together. So that must make it a little more exciting. You're not feeling as challenged knowing that there are others there with you doing the same thing.
Absolutely. There's a camaraderie that otherwise there wouldn't be between us.
Right. Well, so now the panel, the locks, I understand one of them was shut down because of thunderstorms.
Yeah.
They literally have a detector that detects lightning. And if it goes off, they will close the lock for 30 minutes until there is no more lightning strikes. I imagine a lightning strike in a lock full of people and propane. I mean, it could blow up the lock. So at first I thought it was like an abundance of caution, but the more I thought about it,
I'm
just glad I wasn't in one.
I know, it's hard to imagine because if you're out on the middle of a river with a barge, isn't it the same kind of problem if there's a thunderstorm?
I would think, but at least it's not in a
in a box of
cement. Yeah, okay, that's true.
People holding ropes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So I think we should take a little break here and hear a song. Do you have something for us today?
I do. We're in Illinois. This is the land of Lincoln. When I think about Lincoln, I think about the period of the Civil War, and there's a main story that I wrote a song about that took place in that time. We have a grave in the town of Gray, Maine, that is simply labeled Stranger of the Late War. And the stranger was a Confederate soldier accidentally brought to Gray. And the people of Gray took care of the stranger and still do to this very day. They still, on Memorial Day, decorate the grave and place a rebel flag, the stranger.
From the Cedar Mountain Battle of 1862 came a fallen soldier's casket as the 10th Maine paid its dues. The grieving parents braced to see their Union son lay dead, but in his place they found a boy in Southern Gray instead. As tears rolled down their faces, they searched vainly for his name, but they never learned to journey to their village up in Maine. Without the funds to send him back, he was buried like their own. And there, above his resting place, they carved stranger on the stone. And the stranger in gray is lying there today, a misdirected casualty of war, surrounded by the ones who fired the Union guns. The stranger in gray will see Dixie nevermore. Fate must have a sense of humor as it winds along its way, for it sent that gray-clad stranger to a little town named Gray. But even when the real son, he was found and buried there, the town made sure the stranger was included in their prayers. And when the ladies place the flowers and the flags are left to wave, above the stranger's flowers a rebel flag flies on his grave. So he lies there with the others who in the life he sought to kill. All the rifle fire has ended, the cannonballs are still, and flowers of glue grow softly on the stranger's marble stone, to show to all that blue and gray don't have to be alone. And the stranger in gray, he's still lying there today, a misdirected casualty of war, surrounded by the ones who fired the Union guns. The stranger in gray is a stranger nevermore. Yes, the stranger in gray will see Dixie nevermore.
And that was The Stranger, a live performance from Dave Rowe. And we're talking to Dave and Stacey right now on board the Stinkpot and this chapter of Folk on the Water. That is such a moving song, Dave. I play that every Memorial Day on my show here at WFDU and also now on Folk Music Notebook. I'm just curious, has there ever been any effort to try to find out who this person was? I mean, now with modern technology, do they have any chance of doing DNA or anything like that? Or do they just rather not even bother with it?
Well, it's sort of a loaded question. They absolutely could ID him, I'm sure. But there are forces at work to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, if there's a family down in the South who thinks it may be one of their relatives, I believe there might even be more than one. And there's a chance that if he was found out to belong to somebody, they would exhume the grave and bring him to the South.
Mm.
And Gray doesn't really want to let go of him at this point.
Huh, interesting.
They've laid claim.
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting story. Oh, well, Stacey, how are you holding up now? We talked to you a few weeks ago. Are you still as enthused on this trip, or is sitting around waiting for the lock to open? Does that change your perspective at all?
Well, I gotta say, Lake Michigan was a washing machine, and it's such a relief to be off of it, frankly. When you have to think about the weather as a matter of safety day after day, wondering what's going to happen, it's a little stressful. I mean, Chicago was invigorating, and being in a metropolitan area with all the fruits that it has to offer was awesome. But, in the end, I am sort of a city girl, essentially living outside. I mean, we're at a marina right now, and we use their facilities so we don't, fill up our Blackwater tank. I'll leave the boat, take a walk to their bathroom, for example, go up a ramp and walk through, 8 spider webs. So I'll, freak out and, brush them off, use the facility, go back down the same ramp and wipe off 8 spider webs. They literally have rejuvenated in the 2 minutes that I'm walking. But it is neat to finally meet up with other loopers, Ron, and see the other ladies and know that they're not much more stoic than I am. We have our little issues. We have our little things that we don't like. And
Right.
It makes me feel better. My ability to be a first mate and handle lines, I'm pretty pleased. When I compare myself to others, Dave has really turned me into a fine-tuned machine. I mean, he taught me everything I know, but compared to the other ladies, I feel kind of rock star-ish in that regard. Well, overall, I'm pleased, and I'm having a good time.
Oh, that's excellent. I've seen the videos of you at work there. You look like you're in charge. I mean, I think they maybe call himself the captain, but I think, we all know the truth here. So
Oh, easy now.
No, he's taught me everything I know. And really, if I'm empowered by the knowledge that he's given me, I mean, he's not afraid to explain things in a thorough manner. So I actually know what I'm doing. It's a relief, really.
Yeah. Well, this is an amazing journey, and you still have a lot more to go, but things are looking good. And I'm so honored that we're able to do this on Folk Music Notebook, talking to the two of you, because, somebody like myself who gets seasick in bathtubs, I mean, to be able to share this information with all of us, it's really intriguing. It's a great story, and you two sound like you're having a good time. I thought by now you'd be each other's throats, but it sounds like you're both getting along really well and enjoying everything you're seeing. I hope that's the case, right?
I think we're doing okay.
Well, I'm going to let the two of you go. So before I do though, what is your plan? Now, tomorrow you're going to try to get through the lock. Supposing there's setbacks, is there any other choices that you have?
We can sit still. We're going to try to get through 2 locks tomorrow, and if we're successful with that, we will make it to the South Shore Boat Club, which is where we're going to spend a week. It's where my gig on the 21st of this month is. It's in Peru, Illinois. If anybody's in the area, it's open to the public. So please.
Oh, that's excellent.
Come say hey. But everything we're doing right now is just to get to Peru. Once we get there, we're going to put down roots, I think, for just a little while.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm glad to see you doing another gig too. That's really nice because music is obviously part of this adventure too. Oh, and before we leave, I almost forgot. We were talking about the locks, but I think one of the issues that you might have is some of all these bridges getting under them.
Oh.
I understand there was one bridge in particular that was a question mark for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a bridge. It's a 19 and a half foot bridge, fixed bridge. They call it a fixed bridge because it used to be a drawbridge, but no longer draws. And it's just outside of Chicago. And everybody, when they are shopping for a looping boat, is there beside the boat with a measuring tape going, will it make it under this bridge? I don't know.
It's a legendary bridge. I mean, our Facebook page, Our Adventures on Stinkpot, went live showing people this bridge, and it had hundreds of people who wanted to actually see this
monstrosity.
Yeah, it's legend because it is the loop limitation.
If your boat is too tall to go under that bridge, you're turning around and going back the way you came. There is no way to complete the loop if you can't get under that bridge. So we made it under.
How much clearance did you have?
Stinkpot probably had a good solid 3 feet above her at that point.
Oh, that's still close. That's very close.
Oh, that's great. That's great. 3 feet's great.
Well, I'm glad you made it through, and we're going to wish you all the best of luck getting through the locks, and we'll talk to you both again really soon. Hopefully, another couple days after you get through, and hopefully hear some more great music from you as well. So, I wish you both the best. Good weather. Let that wind die down, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Ron.
And that was Dave Rowe and Stacey aboard the Stinkpot, another chapter of Folk on the Water. And we'll hear from them again in a few days. And of course, more great music coming up right here on Folk Music Notebook.